Hi there, Saksham this side from AceIPM. In this video, we are going to discuss the lessons that we have learned from IPMAT 2021. As some of you might already know, we started AceIPM this year itself, and we had a batch of 250 people who appeared for IPM this year. And many of them were able to convert their calls to IIM Rohtak, Ranchi, Indore, and so on and so forth. But there were a lot of people, despite preparing well, despite performing well up until the time the examination happened, were not able to make it to the IIMs in the final admission process. We had a word with them to figure it out as to what went wrong in their preparation, and this video is going to be of a big help for people who are giving the subsequent attempts, because to know what went wrong with your peers or your seniors means that you have an option to preemptively correct it and make sure that you are not messing up your admission process just because of these silly mistakes. So without any further ado, let's begin. Coming to the lesson number 1, and that is verbal ability is the make or break section. In the case of CAT, it is usually LRDI. In the case of IPMAT, it is verbal ability. And why is it so? The reason is that people don't give due attention to this one particular section because you've already done English throughout your school life and you feel like you're masters of this subject because you've been scoring good in your school, which is definitely not the case, because what's asked in your school examination versus what's asked in an entrance is vastly different. So just because you're doing good in your school does not mean that it will translate into a good performance in the verbal ability section of IPMAT. And more so because the cutoffs are on the rise with every passing year. In the year 2019, when I gave the paper, the cutoff was 71 out of 160. In the year 2021, the number of questions were reduced, and that was 120 marks of paper in total. And despite of that, the cutoff was still 70, right? The cutoff did not change much despite the decrease in the number of questions. And to meet this cutoff is going to be a challenge, because difference in just one correct question can result in you not getting a call, because no matter how high you score in quants, you have to meet the sectional cutoffs or verbal as well. So it becomes inevitable for you to be giving due attention to this particular section as well, and not just solve math questions all day long. And that brings us to the lesson number 2, which is VA is definitely important to get a shortlist, but QA is much more important when it comes to maximizing the composite score. So you cannot neglect this section as well. So what do I mean by composite score? Is basically a score which is given to you for the final admission process, and wherein each of the sections or each of the part of the admission process is given a due weightage. So in the case of IPM 2021, it was 65% aptitude test and 35% interview. Of the 65% aptitude test, about 32.5 went to your verbal ability section and about 16.75 each to your QA MCQ and QA short answer. So in terms of the aptitude test, 50% weightage was for one section of verbal and 50% weightage was given to the two sections of quants. Now in that case, if the verbal cutoff is already 70 out of 120, that means everybody who is there in the interview pool is getting at least 70 on 120. I'm taking general cutoffs over here. Let's say you are exceedingly well in the case of verbal ability and you're able to score 105 out of 120, which is a very, very good score. In that case, you are at a 50% advantage. You are scoring 50% more than somebody who just cleared the cutoff. On the other hand, QA cutoffs are relatively low, like very low. The cutoffs were like 8 on 14 short answer and 21 on 80 in MCQ. But QA as a section is something which is actually scoring. If you know it right, if you know the concepts, then there are people who are scoring 32, 36 easily in the short answer section. So let's say you were able to score 24 in short answer. You are at a 200% advantage over somebody who just cleared the cutoff of 8 on 40. You're scoring 24. And let's say you're able to score 30, or let's say you're able to score 32. You are at a 300% advantage in that case. So that is why it inherently becomes important for you to maximize your score in QA as well. Because yes, VA will guarantee you a shortlist for the interview round, but if you were to convert your final call, you have to have a good composite score as well. And for that, QA is going to play a major role. So please do not neglect this particular section as well. And now we come to the lesson number 3, which is expect the unexpected, and people who gave or appeared for IPM of 2021 will able to relate it to the core. Because every year you have some element of surprise in the paper. In my year, in 2019, I believe it was the matrices and determinants question. It wasn't, it wasn't very usual for them to put so many questions of matrices determinants, but in my paper, it was there. So that was one element of surprise for us. In the case of 2021 paper though, it was the DI set. Usually the DI set is very easy, fairly easy. It just requires, it's calculation intensive, but it does not require anything conceptual. But this year they put an LR set rather than a DI set, and it was challenging, and more so because nobody has ever practiced an LR set up until now, because it never came in any of the previous IPM exams. Which is why a lot of people had this set strategy in their mind that, okay, we go to the examination hall, we'll first do the DI set and then only we'll move to the rest of the paper in the case of MCQ section. But because they were stuck in this particular section, they were not able to manage their time well. They were not able to score well in the 5 question set, and then they were also not able to do well in the other questions because they carried that mindset in the remaining questions, and the time was also an issue because they've already spent too much time on DI set without any positive or without any success. So you don't go inside the examination hall with a set strategy. You have to devise that after having a careful consideration of the paper. And that is where mocks help you, because mocks give you different scenarios, different environments, and different possibilities of what might happen in the actual paper, and that prepares you for everything that can possibly come in the paper. Also, the paper pattern can as well change. So in the case of IPM 2019, it was a 400 mark paper. In the case of 2020, they were informed just 15 days before the exam that the paper pattern is to be changed to just 240 marks. So that's also something that you need to take care of. Coming to the lesson number 4, running after different sources for practice won't really help. And this is something which Swapnil also talked in one of his previous videos. If you're solving 200 questions from one chapter, let's say permutation and combination, but you know nothing about circles in geometry, that is of no use, because what if a very basic question of circles come in the exam? You will not be able to solve it because you have never done that topic. So your preparation strategy going forward should be to make sure that you are practicing and preparing from just one source at a time. Don't overwhelm yourself. But once you have gone through it completely, then only you move ahead to something different. Just finalize one source, put full trust into that, and just make sure you're completing all of it at once from starting till the end, and then only move to something different. Talking about the lesson number 5, revision is definitely of the essence. See, syllabus is vast and we all tend to forget something which we have done in the initial days as we move ahead. And in that case, completing the syllabus just isn't enough. You will have to revise, and revisions matter a lot more. And that is not just one revision, possibly a couple of revisions, 2, 3, 4, even 5 times, depending on how much time do you have at hand. So it becomes quintessential that you are also revising what you're doing. And to be able to revise, you'll have to have your own formula book handy, because if you're referring to somebody else's formula book, they have created it from their mindset, from their perspective. For you, it can be something different. And when you create your own notes, when you create your own formula book, you have a connect to that. You will be able to relate. Okay, I mentioned or I marked this question because that is where I was stuck. So I would not want to do the same mistake when I'm going for the exam. So that's where it helps. Also bookmark the important difficult questions so that you can refer to them, sometime before the exam, and make sure that you're not doing the silly mistakes again. Lesson number 6, your selection is not guaranteed till the final D-Day. No matter how high you are scoring in the mocks, no matter how well prepared you think you are, things can definitely take an eventful turn on the day of exam. So this happened with many of our students as well. They were well prepared, they were doing extremely well in the mocks, but the day was just not theirs and they were not able to perform to their level best in that particular day. Then some people messed up with their first section, because of which they were not able to perform well in the other 2 sections as well. And a lot of things happen. So one thing is that you just cannot be sure that, okay, Indore to mil hi jayega, let's just ease out because I've already done so much. No, that should not happen, because it is going to be an ongoing struggle. And the only way you can cut out this unpredictability is by extensive practice coupled with unbreakable consistency. You might be the best person in quants because you have done that for JEE. You might be the best person in verbal because you're doing good in your board examinations. But you will have to make sure that you're practicing at regular intervals so as to make sure that nothing goes wrong in the actual examination day. So make sure you are practicing and giving your due time to the preparation of these entrances. Now comes the final lesson, which is you read the instructions properly. That happened in the case of IPMAT Rohtak this year. It had a very different instruction set than what people are used to normally. But people chose to ignore the instruction set. Nobody actually read it. But what it mentioned was that answers that are marked for review will not be considered for evaluation. And a lot of people have this strategy that they go through the paper once, they mark for review everything that they feel is comfortable being solved, and then after they have gone through the entire paper, they then come back to the mark for review questions and solve them. But if you do not unmark them for review, they will not be considered for evaluation, and that was the case with IPMAT Rohtak. And those who did not read the instruction set properly had a disadvantage despite knowing the answers, right? They might have gotten all the marked answers correct, but that would mean nothing because they are not considered in evaluation. So next time, whenever you're going for any of the entrance examination, you read the instruction properly. And that actually happened in the case of CLAT 2020 as well. Something similar happened. So reading instructions is going to be very important. Finally, if you're preparing for IPM, you can also join us at AceIPM with our 1 year or 2 year exclusive preparation course, which includes in-depth recorded lectures plus weekly lives, which are specifically tailor-made for IPM entrances. You'll get 21 physical books, which have more than 6,500 questions to practice, which covers every component of the paper. You have 120 plus full-length mocks and sectional tests available for IPM as well as other management entrances. And you will be mentored by your seniors from IPM, and all that is available at a very affordable pricing. We have had 70 plus selections in IIM Indore and Rohtak this year, and the overall IIM selections has surpassed 100. And you can go to our website aceipm.com to have a look at our courses and offerings. And you can also book a free counseling session to get to talk with us, understand your plan of action, and see if the course is the right fit for you. If you found this helpful, please leave a like and share it with your friends who also might find it helpful. If you did not, then drop a dislike and share it with people who you don't like. And I'll be meeting you in some other video super soon. Till then, all the very best for your preparation. Stay safe and goodbye.